to a new episode of Cancer Tamer. I'm your host, Dr. Charlie Ferrer. Today we have a special show for you where we're actually going to talk about a whole bunch of different books. And these are wonderful books that I've read along the way, some that I'm still reading. And Deborah's going to help me talk about them, so stay tuned.
Hi, Charlie. One of the books I read was Heal Breast Cancer Naturally by Veronique Desaulniers. Okay. And she talks about these 7 essential steps to beating breast cancer. To run through them quickly would be, we'd say, all right, so why do I have breast cancer? I think a lot of people ask that question, and there are reasons why this happens. The second chapter, which talks about essential 1, is let food be your medicine. So what she believes, instead of taking a lot of different drugs or supplements, is to try to eat better, which is correct. All our doctors talk about that. But we're not telling you and we're not advocating don't take drugs. That's something that you decide on your own. Wait, that came out kind of weird.
Not so much don't take drugs, but it's your choice on what kind of medicine you want to take.
That's true. Okay. Essential number 2 is reduce your toxic exposure. So let's say you're buying a rug. You know, some rugs emit PVC and all kinds of toxins, which can disrupt your hormones. There's certain suntan lotions that are actually hormone disruptors, and they advise that pregnant women don't even use those.
Right.
So that's what that chapter talks about. Essential number 3 is balance your energy. So you have to understand when you're exerting energy on toxic people in your life, negative people in your life, that's exerting your energy. Keep your energy for you so that you can stay healthy and strong. Essential number 4, heal your emotional wounds. Now that's a heavy-duty one because if you can't do it by yourself, well then maybe you should talk to someone. People that have cancer, they have a lot of resources that you can talk to different therapists about an array of different topics to help you out with that. And then we have essential 5, embrace your biological dentistry. Believe it or not, there are toxins in your mouth from the dentist, whether it's mercury or other items. That's something to look into, and if you can afford to change that, you should. And essential 6, repair your body with therapeutic plants. Believe it or not, there are certain plants, I know that the English ivy and certain ferns are very healthy in a room if you're breathing the air in there. It actually detoxes the room. And that's what they talk about with that. And now essential 7 is adopt very early detection, which basically means you are your own advocate. This is your body. Go to the doctors when you're supposed to. Get your mammographies, your sonograms, or thermographies, whatever you decide. But do it. Don't put it off, because the longer you put off something, when a problem does arise, usually it's bigger than what it could have been. So that's very important. So I recommend this book. It had a lot of good things in it, and it was pretty quick reading. And it really was very in-depth. So, you know, take your time with it. It's not, these are the kind of books you really can't rush through. Sometimes you have to read them more than once. But I suggest when you get the book, you know, underline the important things. So this way, when you go back, you just look at the most important stuff.
Yeah, and you can always get your reference.
Right.
I love writing all over my books.
Yes, you do.
And she goes by Dr. V, Dr. Veronique. And she actually, a friend and I went to her Diva retreat this past year. And it was really wonderful because you had other women that either had cancer or had breast cancer. And we were able to talk, to interact, to get information. And so she did this whole 2-day program on things to know, things to interact, how you interact with yourself, how you interact with foods and things like that, which was really wonderful. If you want to know more information, feel free to go to our website, www.cancertamer.org, and we'll have information about the book as well as information about her program and things like that. So that's great.
Very good.
One of my favorite books that I just adore, this book, and it's Cancer, 50 Essential Things You Need to Know. this was one of the first books that I actually read among the first three. And what I love about it, it's by Greg Anderson, and he actually started a foundation on cancer and things to know. And he goes on to talk about 50 essential things that you need to know. And some of them, studying, researching, taking control over treatment, which is also something that most people don't talk about. But over treatment is when you're constantly getting treated for things that, not that you don't need, but going in for your third MRI in 3 months. Yeah, that's a little bit much. Let's do the whole body at one time. Or you're having too much medication,
right?
And one doctor gives you these pills, the other doctor gives you those pills, and your doctors aren't communicating together. That's why it's so important to have a list of all the medications that you're on. Also, sometimes I don't want to say there's tests that you don't need, but there are more specialties that you need. And so being able to do those and discuss those. One of the chapters that I loved was Analyze Your Beliefs. And so he talks about noticing what you're choosing to believe, what you're thinking of, what's going on with you. How are you, do you believe that God gave you this horrible disease? Well, that's a really bad thought.
It is a bad thought, but I think people, the first thought is, God, why me, or whatever,
why me? And he does talk about
says,
that.
why not?
Yeah, he says, get beyond the why.
Right.
But in analyzing your beliefs, you're also thinking about, and the pieces that I've heard before is, I'm being punished for something that I must have done. It's like, nobody's going to punish you with something like this. So really notice what your beliefs are. Really notice what you're thinking. Also notice if you're thinking unconsciously. Because
in what respect?
And what I mean by that is, you're conscious of the thought, why me? Why me? But are you not thinking that, I got this disease because? And so you get to where it's kind of like driving a car. If you're a driver, you go from point A to point B. Do you notice all the streets that you pass? Do you notice, the people on the sidewalks, or are you just straight ahead and not focusing? Because it's automatic. So some of our thoughts are automatic.
Okay, that makes sense.
And so realizing that when you start thinking, I'm being punished, or I should have known better. I should have, woulda, coulda. I smoked for 20 years and therefore I'm being punished now. Smoking isn't such a great habit, and I'm saying this from my own personal experience because I smoked for over 20 years. But that doesn't mean that's why I got cancer.
Right, because there are people that are 90 and still smoking, and they don't have cancer.
And they're doing fine.
So it doesn't make sense.
So being conscientious of your thoughts.
Okay, so you think like more positive thoughts instead of more negative thoughts.
More positive thoughts, as well as Mike Dooley is another person that you should really look into his work. Mike Dooley talks about the fact that thoughts become things. So what you think is what you'll bring into your life.
Okay.
What you think is what you believe. Perception is everything. Perception is your reality. And so what you believe is what's going to happen. Or you'll make it happen so that, predestined, if you think you're predestined for something, then you're going to make that predestined happen. So make it a good predestined.
Right.
Make sure that you're thinking of good thoughts. Not that you have to be like, Pollyanna. But what are you thinking? Are you thinking, today I'm going to have a good day? Well, I'm going to have a good day because these are the things I'm going to put in place. If you're thinking, I'm, I can't think of anything bad.
Well, lucky you. Lucky me. Go figure.
But, if you think I'm going to have a fight with my son tonight when we get home. Well, guess what? You will have a fight with your son, not because it's going to happen, but because you're going to do something that's going to make it happen.
Right, okay.
By
so you
your
trip up
thought,
yourself on
and you
that.
do it subconsciously.
Yeah.
And we all have those subconscious, and here's a great subconscious one. It's also a part of not even noticing. So you can have a subconscious thought that you believe when somebody rolls their eyes, they mean blah.
Right.
You know. So if my son says whatever, and this is a great one for me, my son says whatever, just I get so upset with him because for whatever means he's not listening to me, he's not
he's
following.
Brushing you off.
He's brushing me off. He's saying, you know, forget it, lady. You know, so being conscious of, wow, that's how I react to that word. And so instead of that, let's think of something better.
Right. So it's more of like an introspective
So be very
look
conscious
of
of what you're thinking, because if you don't, then you end up hurting yourself. But there's the one thing that I really did when I first looked at this book in particular, and I was going through the, you know, Barnes and Noble and the libraries and trying to see what books were out there. The one thing that captured my mind about this book, Cancer, 50 Essential Things, was the back page. And if you notice, the back page is actually a contract. And I love this concept because the contract basically says, my cancer recovery contract. And it says, I will. And it lists all the things that you would. I'm going to notice my medical. I'm going to notice what I need to do. I'm going to notice my nutrition. I'm going to notice my exercise. I'm going to notice my attitude. You know, is my attitude good? Is my attitude bad? Am I becoming an expert on my mind and my body? I'm going to notice what support that I have, you know, and how to create that for myself. And we talk about that in another book, in Breast Cancer from Diagnosis to Surgery, how to build your support group and your posse. He also talks about the spiritual connection, because there is a spiritual connection in this. Not that you're going to become, you know, a holy roller and go
I've
crazy.
been called that.
But the piece of it is that you're noticing your spirituality, whether that's religious spirituality, you know, or spirituality from your own perspective or your own higher power. So noticing that. And then what I love at the bottom, he says, I hereby commit to traveling this incredible path to living well. And I affirm I am cancer-free, a picture of health. Thank you, God.
Oh, how beautiful.
And so
that is
regardless,
wild.
And the fact that regardless of where you are in your journey, whether you're just being diagnosed or you've been, you know, cancer-free, or you're dealing with your recovery time, the fact is that you believe for yourself that now it's out of you, and you're going to prevent it from coming back by what you do, by being, you know, conscious of your nutrition, being conscious of how you interact with other people, de-stressing, exercising, all those things. So I really highly recommend this book because I just loved it.
Yeah.
And you know, and he's wonderful, and he had cancer himself, and so he talks about different aspects of what to think, and he has a foundation as well. So again, Cancer, 50 Essential Things to Do by Greg Anderson.
Oh, okay.
So, well, I think and by the way, Greg Anderson, if you're listening to this, I wrote you an email.
Did he answer
you? No, I just sent it. So I wrote you an email. Please answer me.
Oh, that would be great. Maybe we can meet
me.
him. You never know.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of beliefs and what you believe in, I know you read this. I read this years ago, The Biology of Belief.
The Biology of Belief.
Yes.
And this one is by Bruce H. Lipton.
Yes.
Which, did you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, both of us. I mean, basically, from what I remember, like I said, I read it years ago, was the biology of your body and what your mind can control. So, like even with that book, saying if you believe that you're healthy and going to stay healthy, it really helps. There's like signals that go throughout your whole body from your brain, and that's the biology of your body, to keep you healthy sometimes.
Yes.
So that's
so
what I
you
got
have those endorphins that are going through you. So if you're sitting there being miserable, being depressed, and you're thinking, oh my God, I'm never going to do anything, I have cancer, I'm never going to, you know, be better, and so on, then guess what's happening in your body?
Right, same thing.
All your hormones and stuff are going, oh, right, I'm supposed to remind her that she's sick.
Right.
And so you're going to feel sick, you're going to feel depressed, you're going to be in a worse state. And so noticing what you believe, and we talked a little bit about that a few minutes ago. Notice what you believe. The great thing about this book, about Bruce Lipton's book, is that he also, and I love the first 2 chapters, because I actually had to read the first 2 chapters again, because he's talking about molecular connections. But it is the fact that afterwards, basically what he's saying is that if you believe in the thought that your genetics predispose you to having cancer, that your genetics, no matter what you can do, then you're going to get cancer because, your family had cancer or your grandmother had cancer or whoever had cancer, then you're going to have cancer. Well, that's not true. The fact is that, yes, you can be predisposed or be at higher risk, but it doesn't mean you'll get it.
Right. That's what they say. That's true. Because even with a BRCA gene, you can have a positive BRCA gene, and yet you're not going to get breast cancer. Now, mine was negative, and I got breast cancer, so you never know.
Exactly. And I guess the one thing, and I guess this is a great time to talk about it too, is the belief that just because you're positive on your BRCA1 and 2 gene means that you're going to get cancer, and that's not true. The fact is that, again, you're might be predisposed or at higher risk, but it doesn't mean run out and get your breast removed because you tested positive. It just means that you have to be conscientious of what you eat, how you exercise, how you live your life, how you de-stress to be able to prevent.
Right, and you could prevent.
And you can prevent. Yeah. And the one thing, and I hold these because I wanted to talk about it, but the one thing that Bruce Lipton talks about is the fact that in your genetics, you have to where you can turn them on and you can turn them off based on what you're doing, the chemicals that you're putting into your body. So you have to be very conscientious of what you're bringing into your body. Are you doing a whole bunch of sugar juices? Right. Are you doing a whole bunch of soda? Are you doing a lot of processed food? Are you microwaving things? Something as simple as using your microwave can actually cause even more issues in your body because of the fact that when you microwave food, that disrupts the molecular structure of the food.
Right, it changes it.
It changes it.
That's
so
true.
When you're thinking, ooh, great, mashed potatoes and
let's do it quick.
and meatloaf, what you're actually getting is rubber.
Right.
So your body goes, oh, she's feeding me rubber again.
And then you're going to have a negative effect.
And then you get a negative effect. So noticing even those things around you, what are you putting? So here you're turning on, you're turning on a biological connection, or you're turning it off.
Oh, okay.
And so Bruce has this wonderful video that he did that just explains it all. Because I remember when I was first diagnosed, my whole thing was like, oh my God, I got this weird mutation. I'm going to have all these cancers.
And it's normal to feel that way.
And it is. And because you're coming from fear and you're coming from unknown, and you might have had situations in the past where family members or people that you know had cancer, so you automatically think that way. Because my thought was, oh my God, I have cancer, I'll be dead in 2 years.
Right. And
because everybody in my family, that's what happened to them.
Right.
I hit my 2-year mark, by the way.
Yay!
So I am cancer-free and doing well. And so the part of it is that you are turning on and off different aspects. Just like when you take medicine, the medicine turns on and off different aspects. Like if you have estrogen blockers or beta blockers or things like that. So I would really recommend The Biology of Belief. The other thing too that I love about it, and he does talk about the fact that you have to be conscientious of what you think. And almost all the books that I have read all talk about the fact that it is mind over matter. It is how you start believing in what you have. Because it comes down to the fact that, if you believe something, then you're going to perpetuate that in your life.
Right.
If it's bad thoughts, you're going to perpetuate bad thoughts and bad relationship. If it's good thoughts, positive thoughts, again, not having to be a Pollyanna, but those things are going to bring the positive people into your life. And you know that old saying that they have where...
I'm not old enough.
That old saying that they have where it's like, you know, if you're positive people are going to come your way.
Yes.
Then that's what you start bringing into your environment. And if you're noticing that you're not, you're not thinking correctly, then stop yourself. The minute that you notice that you're not thinking correctly, that's your opportunity to change it.
You just have to notice it. I had someone say to me that I thought was my friend, said she had, I had too much negativity and she had to stay away from me. And it was kind of sad in a way because I was just going through a rough time and I didn't expect that. But then I started to think about it. I says, all right, people don't want that negativity. They got enough in their own life. They don't need to be hanging out with someone that has some, you know.
Yeah,
and
but
I had to change my attitude, really.
And it is about the attitude. It's also about what people believe. Because when I was looking for my new place, I remember one of the individuals, one of the landlords, didn't want to rent to me because his thing was, oh, well, I have daughters.
Right.
And I'm thinking, what does that have to do with anything? Because I don't want my daughters around somebody that have breast cancer because they might get it.
Isn't that crazy?
And I'm thinking, wow, no, breast cancer is not contagious. No cancer is contagious except HPV.
Right, and HIV, well, which is not a cancer.
Not a cancer.
But yeah, I mean, I've had people think that my leukemia was contagious.
Right,
Yeah.
and so, again, perception.
Right.
Perception and ignorance. And you know, it's not your place to go and teach somebody stuff.
Right.
But that's a wonderful way of saying, hey, negative people don't want to live there, don't want to move there, because I don't want that negativity.
Right.
And you can turn around and tell somebody else that, hey, I can't do this. So talk about it, read this book, it's wonderful, and it'll help alleviate some of the fear, which I thought was great. And he gets into quantum physics, which I actually found so easy to read about.
Really?
You know, where he starts talking about quantum health and how one thing that you do to stay healthy will help you in the next one.
Okay.
Another great book was the juicing book, and I know that you've done some of this too. This is by Kris Carr. It's Crazy Sexy Juice. She has a whole line of books that are crazy sexy. And she's a wonderful person. She's very funny in what she's saying. The juice parts, I have to tell you, you see all my little
okay, what's up with that?
But these are all the different juices that I've tried. And the wonderful thing is, and I've tried like almost every single one here except for blueberry, since I'm allergic. But you can then turn around and add different things to them.
Right.
And so my joke is whenever I make a juice that I don't like, I throw an apple in it. And because the apple will dilute the taste, and then you can start over. So you just have more juice.
A juicer or a blender?
I use both. And so the difference that I found with the juicer and the blender is the juicer is for juice. And all the pulp will be thrown to the side.
Okay.
And that's the difference. And so all you're getting is the juice, so that you're getting just juice, and you swallow it down. Whereas with a blender, you're doing the same thing, but you're getting all the pulp.
Okay.
So you get more fiber into it. And some of the things, one of the things that I do is sometimes I'll juice and then throw it into the blender because I want to throw the bananas in there. You don't want to throw a banana in a juicer.
I can't even imagine.
It just does not work. And you don't want to put frozen pineapple in your juicer. Learned that the hard way, blew out my engine. So be careful. But awesome book. Has a great information on all the juicing, and make your own.
Right.
Because I started like naming little juices and making my own juices and what I really liked, what I like to put together. And the juicing you can do with almond milk.
Right, that's
which
true.
is
Or
wonderful,
yogurt,
or yogurt, or almond milk and yogurt.
Or they even have almond yogurt. But yeah, just one thing to remember is not all sugars. You know, you have to mix with other stuff.
Yeah.
You know, that's important.
Yeah, because you want to get vitamins, you want to get vegetables and fruit.
Right.
And so if you have breast cancer or other types of cancer, cancer tends to
feed off the sugar.
Okay.
You had me there for a minute.
I saw it in my head, but I couldn't bring it out.
I'm glad I read it in your head.
Another one of my favorite books is Radical Remission.
Yes.
So you read this one too, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
And the one thing that I love about her and in her book and what she talks about is the fact that you can go into remission at any time. There's this belief that you have to wait 5 years before you can be medically in remission.
Right.
And quotes, medically in remission, because that's what they say.
Well, that's all the quantum research that they've done is only a 5-year. So when you first read, you can go into remission in 5 years, and people have lived 5 years. Your first thought is, okay, the 6th year, am I going to die?
Yeah, and the piece of it that they've done the research with medicine.
Right.
They haven't done the research without the medicine.
Right, to do it holistic.
So, so that's one of the things that I object to from just a psychological, knowledgeable level, is that a lot of the times the doctors will say, well, you have this much percentage of not getting cancer if you take this medicine. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, I was told, well, if I take the anostrozole, the aromatase inhibitors, then I have a 15% chance of not getting cancer, and it'll help me by 15%. And that's all they focused on.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, wow, 15%. But when I said, well, isn't there an 85% chance that I won't get cancer if I don't take the medicine? They're like, oh, no, we don't
want to talk about that.
We don't talk about that. So Kelly Turner does the Radical Remission book, and she talks about how you can go into radical remission, and she talks about the different ways of doing that. And, the fact that people have different ways of doing this, and it was taking control of your health, again, nutrition, exercise, emotional support, positive stuff, social support. So these are all ways of being able to retweak your life so that it'll be better for you. And even if you don't go into remission, well, guess what? Your life is better anyway because you've done all these aspects that you needed to do.
And hopefully you feel better with that. That's true.
Yeah. What's the other one? Oh, this is one that I'm starting to read now.
Oh, okay.
And this is Food and Healing. And this is by Anne Marie Colbin, who actually, Anne Marie established the Natural Gourmet Institute in New York City.
Oh, okay.
And what I love about the Natural Gourmet Institute is actually they're like gluten-free, and they focus on healthy food and healthy cooking. So they don't do processed food.
Right. And they do plant-based nutrition too, I guess?
A lot of plant-based nutrition. Mm-hmm. But it's also about how you can get healthier and be healthier in what you're doing, what you're eating, how you're interacting. And so what I found about this book, and it's actually already 10 years old, but she did a new addition to it, that it is about eating healthy. It is about how to make your nutrition better.
Right.
And that's the piece that, we talk about nutrition and so on, and we need to look at what we're putting into our bodies. We have a whole bunch of other books that are here as well that we won't be able to get into. The Secret, I really love The Secret because it's about what you're thinking, how you're bringing life into your laws of attraction. There's also your brain after chemo and how chemo affects your brain.
Right. And over-the-counter natural cures, because there's a lot out there, but you have to speak to sometimes your doctor if you're taking certain other medication to make sure it doesn't interact. And I love this one, Breast Cancer from Diagnosis to Surgery by Dr. Charlie Ferrer, and which can give you all the information you need when you first get diagnosed, all the way to surgery.
All the way to surgery. And it's not about treatment, it's about the things that you need to get in place. And so, once again, I'm Dr. Charlie Ferrer. You've been listening to Cancer Tamer. Feel free to go to our website, www.cancertamer.org. See you soon.
Bye.